Hello everybody, hope you're doing fantastically well. It's Connor here and we are back with another One Leeds video. And today, what we're going to be discussing, well, we're going to be discussing the summer months for the Whites. A huge summer for Leeds United. One for me that is arguably one of the most important in our history. It is pivotal that Leeds get this summer right. There is an argument that they didn't get last summer right after finishing in a fantastic position, top 10 of the Premier League, 9th. Finishing up, I believe it was over, I think it was 57 points, was it? Unbelievable tally. And Leeds didn't build on that. They didn't attract the names to come into the club and sell them. Sell them the project that for example, a Ralph Hasenhüttl has said that he wants to sell Southampton as next year if they finish in the top 10. You can sell them as that club. I feel Leeds didn't do that in summer. In the winter window, they've completely, if I'm being quite frank, balls that up as well, bringing nobody in and really putting some significant pressure on Marcelo Bielsa, some significant pressure on the players as well. So the board have really got a whack because I think in the last two windows, there have been a lot of failings. You look at the signings of last summer, Daniel James, whilst a lot of us may turn around and think, if he wasn't in that false nine position, what on earth would have Leeds United? What on earth would we have done? You can't turn around really and say that's been a success. I think he's been sort of ostracised from his natural position, which is obviously out wide, and that's the unfortunate events of Patrick Bamford being injured. But then why didn't Leeds invest in another striker, a second striker, when they knew the condition of Patrick Bamford in January? They knew the long-term status of our leading mark. You can argue Dan James probably hasn't worked out yet. You expect effort. You expect to press naturally from a footballer, but we need to see those additional things. And for nigh on 25 million quid, is that a bad bit of business? You might turn around and think Manchester United have had Leeds' pants down there, but the jury is still out there. But yeah, when you look at Junior Firpo at the minute, you need to give him a little bit more time. But I personally don't think, it's an early prediction, I will give him more time. He's a Leeds United player. I'll support him, of course. But I don't think we are going to see more from Junior Firpo. We might see a couple of really decent performances. Might string 3 or 4 really good matches together, and people might hark back to this video and say, "Connor told you so, told you so." But as you guys know, I try work on long term, and I think long term as a signing, he's going to be no better off than Özcan Alioski was at Leeds United. So. And then you look at Klaassen, who has been all right in the under-23s. He's developing. He did really well against Wolverhampton Wanderers. That's one for the future, isn't it? But Leeds didn't do enough in the summer window. They definitely didn't do anything in the winter window. And there's got to be a lot of change, in my opinion, this summer. We've got a new manager, Jesse Marsch. Jesse Marsch needs authority. What he wants is what, the board need to deliver, really. I think that's a big thing. We've just seen, for example, Erik Ten Hag go to Manchester United, and you're expecting the board to sort of get in the way, maybe as they have done with Van Gaal, Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, etc. The Leeds board need to work with Jesse Marsch. They have to work with him because they have to bring in players for his vision, his style. If this is a long-term project, which it looks like it is with Jesse Marsch, given the contract status, the contract length, they have to invest in that manager like they did with Marcelo Bielsa. And I guess what the club did with Marcelo Bielsa was advantageous for fans looking into the future, but Marcelo Bielsa had complete control of the club, in which I don't believe any other manager in world football will have, maybe aside from Pep Guardiola with a football club in the modern era. So I don't think Jesse Marsch will have that. So I think there needs to be a real collaboration between Jesse Marsch and Victor Orta to get it right this summer when it comes to recruitment. But the board cannot stand in the way of Jesse Marsch's vision, because that straight away is a sign of them having a lack of confidence in someone who they've invested in. So I think that's absolutely pivotal. I think another thing that we're going to look at this summer, and which might impact the transfers, you're hoping it doesn't, might impact other financial aspects, is the stadium development. Is there going to be, there's been talk of it now for 2 or 3 years. San Francisco 49ers in the background. They've done a wonderful job, obviously, with the 49ers out in the States, and their whole thing is about development. It's about facilities. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens there. Are Leeds going to start doing things this summer? There's a lot of talk about increasing the capacity of Ellen Road from what it is now to 55, 60,000. I think they'd still sell that out every single week now in Leeds United. But is that going to become the focus of the summer? Because obviously that takes key preparation, doesn't it? It takes key focus, and it takes a lot of money as well. So that is all going to come into question as well when you're looking at what happens with Andrea Radrizzani. Because if Radrizzani isn't in control of Leeds United anymore and the 49ers take full control, which we all expect to happen at some point, we need to look at what their number one objective is going to be. And for me, it needs to be Leeds United staying in the Premier League if they're looking at investing in a stadium and getting fans in there. But is their primary number one focus going to be getting those 20,000 people who are on the waiting list for season tickets into the stadium so their revenue can hike up to an unimaginable amount in Leeds United terms? So that's going to be fascinating to see where the objectives are going to be this summer, because for me there needs to be a primary focus, and I do wonder what that's going to be when you're looking at the ownership of Leeds United. I want statements straight away. I think there has been a real failing at Leeds United over many seasons now in terms of getting started with transfers, in terms of getting the right signings done quickly and not leaving it till the very last embers of the window. I think we've all been frustrated over recent windows when it's come to Leeds United waiting. Victor Orta's come out and said we need to wait for an opportunity to come around the corner. But you almost don't want Leeds to be reactive. You want Leeds to be proactive. You want Leeds to be talking to players now. You want deals to be nearly done right now. I wanted players in December already done by January the 1st. That's what I wanted. That's what I hoped for Leeds United. But in the back of my head, I knew they wouldn't do that. Now, the blame there could have been on Marcelo Bielsa. The common consensus from fans was that it was on Marcelo Bielsa because he wanted a small squad, and that Victor Orta, apparently, according to several reports, was frustrated that he couldn't offer Marcelo Bielsa more. But that was the synergy that those two had at the minute, at that particular moment, and for 4 years. And it was a perfect concoction when you look at the success of the brand. But now it's very different. You know, you've got a young and upcoming manager who hasn't really stamped his authority on the European game as of yet. When you look at pure successes and longevity in top jobs in Europe. So Victor Orta's really going to have to adapt how he goes about things. You know, he's going to have to adapt his scouting network as well. I'm sure they've already had that chat with Jesse Marsh when he was to be appointed manager of Leeds United in terms of where they want to be looking, where they need to be looking to bring players in for the system, to bring players in for his philosophy. As we learned with Marcelo Bielsa, they have to be right up here as well. For me, Leeds United needs stronger egos, a little bit more attitudes as well, you know, a little bit more cockiness. I do think we need that, because sometimes I do think this group can be a little bit nicey nice when sometimes of attitude, have a little bit of swagger. I think we've seen that with Rafinha when he's come in as well. I think that's rubbed off on others at some points. But bringing it all the way back and looking at some, you know, the activity that Leeds have done before, it's always been toward the back end of the window. I'd love to turn around at the start of this summer and see Brendan Aronson on the first day of the first week of the window signed for Leeds United. Then that sets the precedent. It keeps fans on side. That's what we missed out on massively in the winter. Just the signing would have given us all such a boost, because we all think that new signings are going to be the next big thing. We're then going to get to Europe. We're then going to win the league with one new signing. And that's where fans get carried away. But it just gives you a little bit of a boost. And I think it really stamps that authority down for the rest of the transfer campaign. I think it's going to be really difficult for Leeds fans to move on. But I think moving on in life is a necessity, and it's a necessity with a successful business as well. You look at that recycle process, or the cycle, you know, of life and life in football, where there needs to be a regeneration process. I think it's going to be really difficult for Leeds fans to part with certain individuals, but it's not necessary that we need to part with these individuals. But it is necessary that Leeds bring proper Premier League caliber players in, proper players who are going to be able to come in, and as soon as they hit the ground running, are you know, players in training are thinking, wow. Because we look at that bracket that Leeds want to get to. We want to be in that sort of mid-table, don't we? We do. We don't want to be thinking about the bottom of the table. It's all well and good looking at Leeds this season, thinking, you know, we've beaten 8 of the teams in and around us, and we've lost 1. You know, that's all well and good, but you kind of want to expect that season in, season out. But you want to be really competing, you know, on a really good level with the teams up above Leeds United from sort of 13th to 8th place and taking the scalps of the big teams. And to do that nowadays, you simply have to get very, very good operators at this level. You can't do it with the same operators that have been at that standard and at the standard we're at now for multiple years. There needs to be a step up in quality. And I think we all know that. So I'm not saying Leeds need to get rid of the you know the players that have got us to this position. I think the players that have got us to this position, a lot of them deserve to stay, but I think their role in this Leeds United setup needs to change. I think that's going to be quite a difficult thing for people of Leeds United to fully accept. But as Brownie quite rightly said the other day, you know, if we've been able to move Marcelo Bielsa on, the king of Leeds, we should be able to move some of these players on. I think this summer is the right time. I think it really is the right time to be able to transition. And I think you've heard Jesse Marsh come out and say things like, these are the best group of people I've ever worked with. Liam Cooper's the best captain I've ever worked with. Calvin Phillips is an intelligent, fantastic, wonderful young man. But just with certain individuals in this squad, I fully believe that Jesse Marsh will be identifying where Leeds need to strengthen and where some players do need to move on. So that's going to be interesting to see. But I do think the sentiment from some fans, and myself included, does need to move on a little bit, because if we're looking at that next bracket, we just simply can't do it with the level of play that we have now. That is just how it is, especially if Rafinha moves on, and even if Rafinha didn't move on. And locking in with that, it's the aging squad, isn't it? You know, you look at a lot of the Leeds United players, a lot of them are aging at this moment in time. You know, you can look at Matthias Klick, you can look at Luke Ayling, you can look at Stuart Dallas, obviously Liam Cooper. You know, Kiko Casillas out on loan, who we expect to obviously to move on. But there are players within this Leeds United rank, you know, Helder Costa, who is still part of the squad, that are older players now, and Leeds, when you actually look at the average age of the squad, it is, when that first 11 is all fit, it is, and Jesse Marsh and Marcelo Bielsa have been picking similar sort of squads. It's of that older bracket, and you're looking at it, and it is of that older bracket in comparison to other Premier League teams as well. So the recycle, the regeneration, but the revitalization of this squad in terms of youth, quality youth players. A good example of that has been Crystal Palace. You know, last season, older players, you know, Gary Cahill probably been the staple of that sort of classic caliber of Palace players. James Tompkins, players of that ilk. Now you look, they're bringing in players like Michael Elise. Now you look, they're bringing in players on loan like Conor Gallagher. Now you look, they're bringing in players of that, you know, Tyreek Mitchell through the academy. But he's a top player, already got an England cap, you know, in his first full season at Crystal Palace. So these are top players, you know, top younger players, which, you know, are impressionable, and 100%. Brendan Aronson would be a classic example of that, bringing the age down, but bringing the quality up. And everybody, money needs to come in. Money needs to come in this summer. Leeds United have seen a huge profit when they've come up to the Premier League. It's all balanced on wage structure at the club and bonuses, etc. But Leeds have managed the club very, very well. But there is going to have to be a tipping point. And I think that tipping point is going to be this summer, because Leeds need to make a bit of a statement for me. There needs to be expectation from the fans. There needs to be an expectation from the club that, you know, we are looking at that next step. Jesse Marsh has been talking about Europe, winning trophies. Andrea Radrizzani has been quoted talking about Europe before. So Leeds really need to dip the hand in the pocket here. And I'm not talking about going completely over the, you know, equilibrium, unbalancing the books, everything like that. But to not do that and to not unbalance the books, you need incomings. And incomings are going to have to come this season. I think Rafinha will go this year. I do think that will happen. But I think you've got a whole host of loan players. Let me just read some out here. You've got Helder Costa on loan, Ian Poveda, Cody Drame, Matthias Bogus, Leif Davis, Kiko Casillas. They're all on loan. After thinking about it over the past sort of 12 hours, all of those, and I'm now actually gonna put Cody Drame in that after sitting down and thinking about it. I did a video and I thought to myself, you know, we should give him a chance, but I think I would like a drip-fed chance. I would like to see him in pre-season, but I think Cody Drama after this season is going to be hankering for a move. I think he's going to be even hankering for another loan move. But I think Leeds at this moment in time, when his stock is high, should really cash in. When you look at that, he's been quoted as saying that he wants to go out on loan as well in the last couple of days. So his stock's high right now. I think Leeds need to sell. So all of those loan players that are out, I think should be leaving the club now. You'd hope to recoup a little bit of transfer value there. And then you look before at the free transfers that Leeds United have let go. You know, Jordan Stevens, Wasim Boy, Robbie Gotts, Pablo Hernandez, Barry Douglas, Ezjan Alioski, all in the previous seasons, but they've all been free transfers. So we've got free transfers and loans. Leeds United need to make money back, everybody. They have to make money back. I think another big thing to look at this summer is going to be the Rafinha announcement. As I've just said, I do think he will leave this season. I think he is a player who should be challenging for titles. As difficult as that is to hear, it is true. He should not be battling it out at the bottom. He shouldn't be battling it out in mid-table or even from 10th to 6th. This kid, for me, is a top 4 title sort of challenging player in Europe's top 5 leagues easily. So I think he will move on. So the interesting thing this summer is going to be how are Leeds going to announce it? How are Leeds going to go about doing it? Are they going to have players ready like Aston Villa did when Jack Grealish moved on? I think that is the sensible option, but it can't just be like for like. You know, we can't be looking at a scenario here. And this is this is where I'm going to get onto another point in a little bit. But this is where it can't be let Rafinha go and Somerville will come into his place. That's a championship mentality. Somerville will get drip fed into the squad if he's good enough, if Marsh deems him good enough. But replacing Rafinha with Somerville, for me, it's a budget mentality. It really is. And that's where I think as fans, the mentality, and this is another point I want to make, needs to evolve. We are, as KG has said, as everybody has said, Premier League Leeds United. We're a Premier League football club. We stay up this year. Next year, it's going to be 3 years a Premier League club. We need to adjust our mindsets a little bit. We need Premier League caliber players who come in. Players who come in and sit on the bench who are worth 20 million. Players who come in and sit on the bench who are worth 15 million. If they don't impress and they're worth 25 million, you're sitting on the bench. You know, that's how you evolve. That's how you look at players like at Leicester City when they're bringing talent off the bench, Southampton when they're bringing talent off the bench, even just these mid-bracket teams, Crystal Palace, talent off the bench. You know, I saw Edouard come off the bench the other day. I think they got him from Celtic 15 to 20 million on the bench. When you have a look at Leeds United's bench, it's just not sustainable in the Premier League. A lot of that first team isn't sustainable in the Premier League. And when I say sustainable, I mean over sort of a 4 or 5 year period, not a 2-year period, 3-year period. But Leeds cannot make mistakes this summer because this summer is huge because best believe everybody, every other team will evolve. Every other team evolved last year. I fully believe it's been a strong season for the Premier League this year, especially around about the bottom. You know, it's taken months and months and months, in my opinion, for Norwich just to be siloed and gone from the Premier League. There's been so many managerial changes down at the bottom because of expectation changing. Watford still aren't out of it yet. You know, when you look at previous seasons, even last season, Fulham were out of it by this point. Sheffield United were out of it by this point. West Brom were out of it by this point. The competitiveness all throughout the league has been much improved, and that's because of better players and better managers coming into the division. Leeds have to match that and better that, in my opinion, you know, going into next season. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. I feel in January this season and summer, I will say Leeds were left behind, and I think we are feeling that right now. We're in 9th position. I know we're riding on the crest of a wave a little bit. I understand that, but Leeds could have done the windows better. Leeds could have invested smarter. We could have started this process earlier. We could have dealt with the Bielsa situation in a better way. Everything could have been done better, and I think the board would admit that. They've got a fresh start now. It has to be better, has to be improved. But I am hopeful. If Leeds, touch wood, do stay in the Premier League, I am hopeful that these things will happen because I think the board are intelligent enough to have learned from their mistakes. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this one. It's been a bit different, but I think a lot of us are thinking about the summer. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Go check out the debrief from the other night, guys. We'll be back with a preview tomorrow, and I'll see you in a bit. Cheers.